the average creator is leaving about 50% of their potential audience on the table. And so what I'm about to show you in this session is how you could reach them by turning your videos or your podcast or even other videos that you find on YouTube into must-read newsletters. So we all know that email is important. And if you don't, it's absolutely important. Their own subscribers. If you have your own email list and you're building up your list, those are people that you can communicate to anytime that you want. Many of us probably already have a list of emails, but we're not sending emails to them. Maybe you're already creating video, but you're not repurposing it into other formats. And so we want to make sure that for your owned audience, and when I say owned audience, again, I'm talking about the emails that you have, that you own in your possession versus only the content that you could post to Instagram or TikTok or any of the other social networks where you don't really own your followers. Those are super important. We talk about that in other sessions, but in this session, again, it's how are you going to take a YouTube video or your podcast or one of your recordings and you're going to turn that into newsletter content so you can send out a newsletter at least every week to your email subscribers. Now, this session is going to be live demo. We're going to walk through exactly how we're going to do this. And not only are we going to walk through on how to do this, but if you guys have examples of the types of newsletters that you want to see or different structures, I'd be more than happy to do that as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So first things first, we're inside of Alfana. Hopefully all of you already have an account so you guys could try this on your own. But in Alfana, we essentially could take any video and we could turn that into multiple pieces of content. So what I did was I went ahead and I set up an example project already in here. But if you were to go ahead and create one, let's say from scratch, right? So you click right here, left on create. And what you're going to do to start off is obviously you want to be able to create your own content. So you could come in here and add a YouTube video. Now we pull in from YouTube, or you can upload your own files directly from your computer. But we want to make sure we get a video in here so that we can start generating newsletters from it. And so in this case, I pop in a YouTube URL. And because I'm just going to pull an existing email, this one's called I Tried Every Email Tool. Great. I'm going to go ahead and click import. And you let that run. And once you're done, then you can select a template to be able to go ahead and start generating content. Now, I'm going to let this run in the background. Meanwhile, what we're going to do together, we're going to start with a blank template because I think it's important for you to see how we can build these different newsletter by dropping cards on a page first before you use an automated workflow that can set up multiple variations of it. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to select this email, this demo project that I've already set up in here. It's already transcribed. So once you create and you add a YouTube video, you'll see a page that looks something like this. And in here is where you can actually start generating content. So I've got my video. If I click up here, you'll see that I've already got the transcript. So I already know what this video is about. Our AI is already trained on it. Not only that, but we've identified the speakers, right? I can click here and I can edit the speaker names. This part's extremely important because the speaker names allow the AI to have more context on who is speaking inside of the video. When there's really one person talking, it's not as big of a deal, but you definitely want to put their reference in there. But especially if you got a group of people, 2 to 3 people inside of a video, 4 people, maybe you're doing a podcast, maybe it's a Zoom call that you're dropping into Alfana. Identify who those speakers are. You'll see that the content that's generated is going to be so much more relevant than if you did without. Perfect. So first things first, now that I've got the video, okay, what we want to do, there's different ways that we could write content from a video. And so it's going to depend on whether or not this is your video. So, did you record the video? Did you interview someone? Or were you inside of the conference call or a coaching call or a live stream that you did and you're dropping that into Alfana? Or is this a video or a podcast that you found on YouTube as an example, right? It's not yours, but you watched that video and you're like, wow, this is a great video. It's got great insights. I'd like to share those insights with my followers or my email subscribers, right? And so that's the first things first is what you're going to distinguish. And so the first one that I'm going to do is, let's just say this is your content. You are a keynote speaker and somebody recorded it and now you put it up online and you'd like to generate an email newsletter that kind of summarizes and highlights key aspects of the video. You want to send that to your subscribers and get them to click in order to watch the full video. And that's the first one that we're going to do is we're going to turn that into a newsletter. And so the first things first that we're going to do is we're going to come up here where it says add card. So for those of you that are new, a card essentially combines both a prompt in a pre-structured style and the visual component that can be added to any project. You can essentially turn any video into any of these AI cards. And we have an entire library. I mean, we have to have at least 70 or 80 in here already. And so there's so much content you can create, but we're only focusing on email newsletters right now. So I'm just going to search in here for newsletter. And when I search newsletter, you'll see I actually have a few cards that are already laid out with the newsletter. Okay. I've got newsletter. This is very basic. I've got newsletter concept deep dive. I've got the content highlights. I have newsletter what I learned. I really like this one. I'll show you guys. I've got another one called step by step. And finally, one called content remix. Some of these are new. We dropped 3 of these last week. I added another 2 earlier this morning. This is brand new if you guys haven't seen it in Alfana yet, and that's why I'm going to show you here on this recording. All right, we're going to start off with content highlights. I'm just going to click that card, and we're going to drop those content highlights onto the project. Now, I'll explain a little bit why. Content highlights essentially is like, hey, this is my content. I'm going to share with you the highlights from this video, right? But we're going to do it in a different format. It's not your standard day-to-day format of how maybe a particular email might be. You could, and we could do multiple formats, but I'm going to show you this example. All right. So our AI already analyzed the video, and look at this. Very high level. You don't have to read it. Just look at what it produced already. This is a ready-to-go email, at least a copy, that you can drop into either your newsletter software or a Substack or Beehive, depending on the platform that you prefer. So here we go. The first thing it starts off with is a subject line. Now, this gives you one subject line. I could show you later how to even come up with more variations of subject lines. But for now, you've got one. This one's about start writing now, surprising benefits of email newsletters. What a perfect video, right? We're talking about newsletters, and I pulled in a video about newsletters because I want to make sure that we really instill the concept of what we're trying to do here. So if I come down a little bit, it kind of starts off with a greeting. Hi there. I'm thrilled to share that I've just released a new video that dives deep into the world of email newsletters. Have you ever thought about starting one? In this video, I discuss why this simple tool can be a game changer for creators and how easily you can get started yourself. Trust me, you don't want to miss the insights on this one. So already it's got a nice intro, it's got a hook, and it's kind of leading you into going into watching this video. But let's start here, right? Before we dive in, this video is crafted with creators in mind, especially those pondering starting those that are starting their own email newsletter. If you're curious about building deeper connections to potential earnings, this is for you. Let's highlight some key takeaways that can inspire your creative journey. So now what it does is it starts diving into the importance of email newsletters because these are insights that are coming from the video. So yes, I'm talking about email newsletters right now, but this is also other insights that is within the video content. And so it gives you a nice section about why email newsletters matter. And look at this. It even gives a my take, right? Now, obviously the AI wrote this my take. So if you agree with that take, you leave it in. If you don't agree with it, you can make a quick tweak right here and summarize what your takeaway is, right? Or it talks about the power of community and how building an email list can lead to friendships and community. And then it gives you their take. Or the third point is a tool for monetizing your art, right? It's not just about writing because over time, this can actually become a valuable asset. And so what's my take? Consistency pays off. Literally, you stay committed and opportunities will arise. So again, it's giving you little teasers and snippets that's coming directly from the video, right? And now the readers, they're kind of drawn in. And now it goes into quick takeaways. And it gives you here 5 bullet points of the quick takeaways that you could take from this video. So if you didn't watch it, you got the takeaways just by reading this piece of content. Then it gives you, there's more where that came from, right? In order to build your confidence further, the full video reveals more insights about developing your personal brand and maximizing meaningful interactions with your audience. So imagine just sharing updates, not sharing just updates, but making lasting impacts. Why are we writing this? Is because we want people to go watch the video or go listen to the podcast, right? And so that's why we have these snippets in here. So you're telling the reader, set aside about 14 minutes and discover why starting an email newsletter might be the easiest step you can take towards building a solid creators platform. Trust me, the insights packed in here are more than worth your time. Watch the video here. And then it gives you a spot so you can actually put a URL to the video or to the podcast or wherever it is that you have that piece of content stored. And then a nice greeting to sign off. Thanks for reading. I'd love to hear more about you. Cheers, your name, PS, if you got any more questions, right, shoot me an email. So this is one take of an email, okay? Go ahead and drop in the chat if you think this is an example email that you would like to send to your followers. And if it's not, what would you need changed about it? Because we can always tailor this. And what do I mean by that? Because the other piece is if you're like, hey, I want to personalize this even more. Like there's some sections that I like, there's some parts that I don't. Maybe it doesn't match my tone of voice. We actually give you access to the full prompt. Now, I'll zoom in slightly just to help you guys to see this a little bit better. But this prompt's really long. It's not just a simple like, hey, ChatGPT, go write me a newsletter, right? That wouldn't work out that well. And so you'll see in here, our prompt really gives it clear instructions on I want you to turn this video or podcast into a newsletter that highlights key insights from the content you've created with a natural flow towards watching the full video. And then we go into the structure, right? We want it to be clear and engaging. Look at these bullet points. If you want to learn how to write these crazy prompts, I did a whole session last week just on prompting ChatGPT, Alphana, and other AIs. But this here alone, you can learn and see how detailed we write in order to make sure that this newsletter gets you the output that you're seeing on the screen. And what's great is that you can come in here, like for example, we have a whole style guideline section. So one, I recommend you edit your style guidelines and put that into your custom instructions, right? But number two, it also helps to reiterate to the AI if you add it within the prompt. And so in this case, you can come in here, and if you don't like the tone of voice, you can change that here. Like we want it to sound like you're emailing a friend, or we want it to use a first person perspective with I, my, and we. But again, if you don't want it to be first person perspective, or you don't want it to sound like you're emailing a friend, this is the exact spot where you're going to make those edits in order to personalize this example newsletter for you. And of course, it goes into more details, like it covers how we want the spacings, how to use bold, how to use rhetorical questions, the voice and tone, right? We even talk about the newsletter length. In this example, we wanted 600 to 800 characters long. But if you want it to be 1,500 characters, 1,500 words long, put that in there. If you want that to be much more short, concise, punchy, this is where you would make those edits. But in general, it'll give you a style newsletter that looks like this format that I showed you here. Let me take a look at some quick questions. Will the custom instructions be saved, or do we need to put them in every time we use the card? Right now, I actually have some conflicts between my custom instructions and the custom instructions that are within the card. And so you don't have to put it in the card, but I do recommend sometimes if the AI and the output's not coming out, you kind of reiterate to it. This happens even with ChatGPT. Sometimes you got to tell it multiple times, or Claude, in order to make sure you get things right. So it's actually using both. So if I go to my custom instructions, I have some in here that talks about writing like a 6th grade reading level, favor everyday language, right? I've got a couple things in here. Avoid words like delve, harnessing, unlock, or any jargons, right? So that will be combined with the tone that's written inside of this card, right? So what you could do if you're like, hey, I don't want that to be in the card, I just want to do it in my custom instructions. Again, you can edit the prompts and remove it, right? And just see how it performs to make sure that it writes exactly like you. AI, ChatGPT, it's like a teenager that doesn't always listen. I don't even know if it got to teenage level yet, right? They never listen. You got to reiterate multiple times. But you know what? Right? Think about it. And sometimes with teenagers or even younger kids, it's not even reiterating the same thing multiple times. Sometimes you got to reiterate it differently multiple times, right? And it's the same thing with AI, right? Because maybe it didn't understand the first way and it interpreted it to go in one direction. And so you have to change up how you said it in order to go to another direction. So like building this prompt here, easily you might spend, depending on the person, you could spend anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour refining this. And not that it took that long to write it, because of course, in our nature, in the business that we're in, we use AI to help us with constructing these prompts. But you're going to want to write the prompts and then test it. You're going to want to write the prompts and then test it. And you're going to do that over and over, get the feedback, revise the prompt until it gets to a point where you're comfortable with where it's at. And so this is that one example. All right. So just now I showed you how you could take a video to create a content highlights newsletter. This is, again, this version is more in first person. It's a tone that you're sending out to someone, like you're talking to an individual, and it helps to drive people back to the newsletter. So we're going to try now, and we're going to take this video and we're going to turn it into a completely different newsletter. Again, some of them may have similar purposes, right? But they're going to be constructed and they're going to look different. So let's see which one we want to try now. So I'm going to do another one. This one's going to actually take a deep dive. And so what this one's going to do, the concept deep dive, let me see if I can pull out the prompt as it's writing it. It's going to essentially do a thoughtful newsletter. It's going to extract the insights from the video, but it's not going to be written in the format of, hey, I watched this video and I want you to watch the video. The entire newsletter is going to have nice short pieces. It's going to have chunks of writing. It's going to flow a little bit differently. So before I even go into it, let's just take a look at this example newsletter. You'll see it's completely different. You'll see a couple short words, longer paragraphs, a couple short words. Then you got a section called Practical Foundations, right? And then it ends right there. This is a completely different style of a newsletter. And so this one's really it's going to take a deep dive into the concepts inside. It's almost like concept exploration. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? This is almost like you're trying to create something new, but instilling the insights from the video. So let's read this together, right? Creativity, effortless, joyful, explorative. The idea of creativity has long fascinated us. From cave paintings to revolutionary novels, our inherent impulse to create defines us. Plato once suggested that creativity is divine madness, a spark from the gods. Centuries later, Van Gogh painted not only to express but to understand. In the modern world, this spark ignites the digital space with emails and social media. These platforms are today's canvas, illustrating the daily creativity of millions. Lee Abdahl's discussion on newsletters highlights this transformation, showing how creativity adapts to culture and time. Like, look at that. I mean, this is very, again, it's thoughtful, it's philosophical in a sense. I mean, it kind of goes back, right? Why? Does technology stifle our spur creativity? The digital domain offers infinite possibilities to express ideas, etc. And then again, look, short points, connection, real, personal, engaging. I mean, this just helps someone to really dive into it, reading and going like, you want people to go line by line. The one suggestion I would do sometimes is you can actually take this paragraph and just make them shorter, right? Perhaps you can, at Plato, make that another paragraph break, and at these platforms, you can make that another paragraph break. This gives you flexibility to copy this and put this into your newsletter software. And then again, just space it out a little bit more if you want. And then other times you can use the same thing, but use the paragraphs, right? Do something consistent that your readers will enjoy. And if I keep going, one thing it does is it goes into like practical foundations. So it talks about like authentic creation, right? Create for joy, not for metrics, how he suggests to starting with passion, etc. Value sharing, audience engagement, ease of entry, right? And then down here, it's like, all right, explore creativity, engage thoughtfully, share freely, let your newsletter be a beacon of thought and connection. And then we're attributing back to the original creator. This newsletter drew inspiration from Lee Abdahl's enlightening video. For deeper insights into creative endeavors and the power of newsletters, consider exploring his work. I recommend this because you just borrowed a creator's work of a concept that they're educating others to use that was publicly on YouTube. And now you are exploring those concepts into an email newsletter to broadcast that to all of your followers and all of your subscribers. And so in the end, even though you took away some of the key takeaways, there's so much value in actually watching the full video. And so this is a clear point to not only put a little note, but drop a link to their YouTube video, and your followers and the creator themselves will both appreciate it. Some people always also ask me like, well, where would this newsletter fit well? This one, actually, I see content like this on Substack, right? That's also a great place for it. So if you've got a Substack newsletter, or again, if you have your own, it doesn't matter the platform, right? I don't want people going crazy with what platform to use. And we could talk about that later if anybody is trying to dive deeper into it. But, if you've got a Substack, if you've got Beehive, MailChimp, or your community has an email software, this is a perfect place for it. This is a great way to explore some of the concepts that are, inside of a video. You'll see that, again, a lot of this is original in the sense that you're pulling out concepts and ideas, but it's rewriting it in a completely different format. So a great way to get another email out the door for your subscribers. It's so cool and awesome how there are such different results from the same video. That's what this is all about. There's so much content in one video, so much content that there's no reason you can't create 30 different pieces of content from that one video, or even 50. You can, because there's so much there. And so a lot of us think like, I got to go do so much more work. Like I did all this work to do this video. Now I got to go do all this work to go create more content and create another video. Take one video and watch. You can literally create a calendar for 30 days based on that. How about another one? We've got more. So I'm going to try newsletter. Now, this one I slightly covered last week, but I'm going to show it to you here as well, because this one's really much about newsletters. So this one's called What I Learned. Again, if you don't record any videos, you don't have any of your own content, again, take your favorite podcast or take your favorite YouTube video. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to teach people about what you learned from that video. And so that's why this one's called What I Learned. And again, look at this format, completely different than the other two newsletters, completely different. And if we look at this, look how it starts off. I watched Ali Abdaal's video on newsletters so you don't have to. And here's what I learned, right? Nice, catchy call to action. You're being straight up front that you pulled this content from another video. And you're like, hey there, I just finished watching his video about why starting an email newsletter might be the smart move. What caught my eye was how he transformed a simple hobby into a multi-million-dollar venture. Today, I'm sharing the key insights so you can get the gist without watching the entire thing yourself. I mean, how many of you would want to watch this video after reading this initial intro, right? If you are trying to come out with a newsletter or you're trying to build a multi-million-dollar empire and newsletters help them to get there, of course, you'll keep reading it. But guess what? You're going to appreciate not just Ali Abdaal, which is the creator, but the person who curated that content for me. Because I'm opening your email. So you are the person that I am thinking about, because I'm reading this newsletter that came into my inbox for your email that I subscribed. And you gave me all these gems that I could use for my business. So you're associating and leveraging the reach from other big creators with your own in order to augment that value to others. So we won't go into too much detail aside. We break it down. We give key insights, why to start a newsletter. We have a little section that's like, why this matters. Another insight, we explain it, right? We keep going. We talk about revenue opportunities, platforms to get started. Don't overthink the content. 5 key short and succinct takeaways, and then my biggest takeaway, right? And in this example, the whole idea of owning your audience was eye-opening for me. Ali highlighted how platforms like YouTube own the content. But with newsletters, you create a genuine connection that you control. This autonomy is powerful in building and sustaining a brand over time. Look at this. Look at this. This is exactly what I said at the intro of our session today, right? Owning your content. And that's why email is so important. And that's why you need AI and tools to help automate and to help extract and create as much content to help you on your day-to-day. Because I'm sure all of you do a lot more than just record a video or write one piece of content. And so we all need some help sometimes, right? And here you'll see it gives some final thoughts. And again, it talks about the video. And this is where I suggest throw in a URL to the full video, right? And then you can work on your next newsletter. I could see the value in this. A large portion of my audience, IT and SaaS professionals, is on LinkedIn. Okay, that's beautiful. They want things that are short, informative, and actionable. Part of what I'm trying to do is get them to rethink their current approaches that don't always work and illustrate the value of something new. Do you have templates or formats that can help with this? That's the great point. We actually even in our last session talked about how to generate a LinkedIn post. So you're essentially saying like you want to create a LinkedIn post or a LinkedIn newsletter and you want to generate that from here. So we don't have a post called LinkedIn newsletter. And actually that's a great idea. I'm going to add that to my list and probably just create variations that can be done just for LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help you with that as well. But, just to show you here, even though this is not about LinkedIn, I do want to make sure that you're getting all the value that you want out of this. If you type LinkedIn, we have a whole series of LinkedIn posts, just like we do with newsletters, like 10 viral LinkedIn hooks. If you're trying to find the right hook for your LinkedIn post, LinkedIn with key takeaways. We have an insight post, just learned, highlights, reality. I mean, a ton. And if you look inside of our templates, and I'll show you here, is actually a great one. We have an entire template called LinkedIn Post Generator, right? And some of these are actually long form to be in a post, but you could potentially leverage one or two of these for the newsletter feature on LinkedIn. And if you look here, like, look at all these LinkedIn posts we have here. I mean, what is this, like 10? Right? We've got a standard one. We've got a so what LinkedIn post. We got a highlights, which breaks a video into highlights. Think again, just learned, reality check, mantras. Don't get overwhelmed. There's a lot. And what's great is that this gives you so many different formats to rotate from in order to create LinkedIn content. And we'll try to get a LinkedIn newsletter version in here as well. That's a great idea. All right, let's see other questions. Many of our videos or recordings are 30 to 60 minute webinars. In these webinars, we might have 2 or 3 main topics that could each lend itself to separate newsletter topics. 100%. Okay. Is there an easy way to convert a 30 or 60 minute video into multiple newsletters where each newsletter is narrowly focused on 1 or 2 topics from the video? Okay, that's a great point. There is, but it's going to take some steps, right? So essentially this video, let's pretend this video has like 5 different topics. Yes, it's about newsletters in general, but maybe there's like 5 subtopics that are being discussed in the video. I want to generate a post for each of the individual topics, right? So I would say there's multiple ways to do that. One of them is you're probably going to have to construct a custom prompt for it, right? Or you could take an existing prompt in order to do something like that. So maybe we try with the content highlights as an example, right? What I do is I take an existing prompt or a card, right? I'll go and add a new card and I'll use the create your own feature. Okay. This is one way. It's not going to be the best way, but it is a way to do it, because what's going to happen is we're going to ask it here to find 3 topics from the video and then ask it to generate a newsletter for each one of those topics. And it's going to happen in one shot. The reason I don't like asking for like 3 different pieces of content or 5 or 10 in one post is because then what ends up happening is that AI starts generating less content, like less words for each of the posts. So sometimes it might be great and sometimes it may not. So it depends on how long you want your posts. If you're okay with a couple short posts, this might work out well. So, I'll paste an example prompt in here and I'll just kind of edit it, like turn this video podcast transfer into 3 newsletters, each based on a different topic or subtopic discussed in the video, and that highlights key insights from the content created with a natural flow towards watching the video. So we're going to test this, and I'm doing it live. I'll just go ahead and hit generate. I would always spend more time editing the prompts. We would customize it even further, but this just gives you just an example to show, like, you can give instructions for it to create multiple things in one shot, and then you could see the results. And if you want it to be better, there's a second approach. It'll just take a multiple passes, and I'll show you that now. Let's see what this did. All right, my take, if you're ready to dive in, quick takeaways, fantastic. Okay, look, now it's building number 2. But again, length is going to be an issue because in general, AI has a certain limit to how much it could write in one shot. But look, I've got 2 so far, and actually long enough, I would say that they're good enough to get out in terms of length. So here we go. Okay, I've got 3 newsletters now, all done in one shot. Let's take a look at it really quick. All right, so this one's why starting your own email newsletter might be your best move yet. And now this one covers like why starting it. Okay. This one talks about how your next email newsletter could lead to new connections. That's a different topic. So again, it's now teaching you how to get new connections. Number 3, transform your creativity into profit with email newsletters. Now it's telling you how to profit off of newsletters. All right, so there we go. We've got 3 different newsletters out of this one video, all done in one shot. I'm going to go ahead and rename this to 3 newsletters topics, just so I remember what this was. Awesome. All right. So I just showed you now 4 variations of newsletters, or 4 things that you could do. We've got them in here. So we generated 3 newsletters with 3 topics. We generated a newsletter talking about what I learned, pulling out and instilling the concepts I learned from the video. We did another one that goes into a concept deep dive. It's very much thought leadership style, very good for Substacks or depending on your style. And then we've got content highlights, which were essentially just highlighting the content from a video that you released, especially great if you're coming out with a podcast or a webinar or a live stream and you want to put that out to your audience. Beautiful. I've got a couple more newsletters I want you to see. Let's try one more, right? Let's go newsletter. We already did the concept deep dive. We did content highlights. We did what I learned. Okay, we've got step-by-step and content remix. All right, let's go step-by-step. Let's see what this one does. Let's pull it up. Let that run quickly. Go. Perfect. Look at this. Now, before reading, just look at the layout. Look how it's different. I've got title, paragraph, bullets. So this essentially takes the person step by step on how to do exactly what was described in the video. So look at that. This is like you're trying to teach someone how to do something, go step by step, and then final thoughts at the end, right? And again, you can refer back to the video. This works great whether it was your video or you pulled a video off of YouTube and now you're extracting those insights to teach someone. So in this example, how to start an email newsletter without spending a dime and make it fun. Oh, that's cool, right? Hey there, future newsletter rockstar. Ever thought about launching an email newsletter but aren't sure where to begin? You're not alone. But here's the deal. You can start one with zero cost and tons of fun. It's easy, private, and the perfect stepping stone into the creative world. Let's get into it. And so this is how you start a newsletter. And guess what, guys? I'm going to teach you while reading this newsletter. So how do we do this? Number one, you're going to pick a platform because you want to make sure that's the right move. Go for something like Substack Review, or like I mentioned earlier, you could do something like Beehive. Why it works? Because there's zero cost to start, they're easy integration with social media, and they're user-friendly. So look at that. Now we're learning how to start a newsletter. You got to find your why. What's your purpose? Are you sharing your thoughts, curating interest finds, building a community? That helps you, right? Because then it'll keep you motivated. And guys, this part of the newsletter, this is so important, right? And I talk about this in our previous sessions of essentially you want to make sure you put your target audience. You want to understand who you're talking to, because then it'll help you to narrow down the types of YouTube videos that you can pull or your own content to create in order to motivate your audience. Step 3, plan your content so you can decide what to write about. Step 4, you're going to create and you're going to schedule your email to send out to everyone, right? And then aside from that, you're going to build your email list, right? And again, email's super important. It's your own list. Just start building up those subscribers. Just start sending them email. And these are just examples, right? Step 6, launch your first issue, then engage and iterate. And then there's some final thoughts. So this works for any concept, right? Any kind of video. It doesn't have to be about email newsletters. You're still going to get great results. What do you guys think of this card, right? This one essentially breaks things down step by step. Anybody see any usefulness for this one? I'm going to throw one more into the mix. Let's see what this newsletter looks like. Last but not least, it's called the Content Remix. In this version, what we're going to do is we're going to, again, analyze and understand the video, right? And from there, we're going to remix it into a brand new piece of content. And let's see what that looks like. All right, here's the concept. How to start your own successful email newsletter. Why you can easily start now. And it dives into it. Okay, so this is a little bit different than the how-to. It still covers some of the concepts. In this case, it chose to give you a couple step-by-steps. But even if you look at it, look at the structure. Even then, it's a little bit different than the step-by-step version, because this one dives straight into step-by-step. And then the content remix kind of goes into this concept that you see here. So it still breaks out a couple steps, but I think the prompt's a little flexible. So it may come out a little bit different depending on what you're creating. And then final thoughts. So now you've got content remix step by step. You've got what I learned, concept deep dive, content highlights. Are there any kind of newsletters in terms of content to be written or structure that you wanted to see, but maybe I didn't do? Or do you guys have ideas for different types that perhaps you'd like us to be able to create and add into Alfana? Please go ahead and drop that into the chat or in the comments. So the last thing, let me see something. I actually would love to show you. I think some people like to see different results. So I'm going to show you here. I believe is it this one or this one? I want to show you a few examples. Pop this open. So this is a Gary Vee video. And in this Gary Vee video, I wanted you to see what these newsletters look like and how the content, again, the structure is going to look similar, but the topic is completely different. And so this is the deep dive newsletter, but with this Gary Vee video and how it starts off, right? Authenticity, real, raw, and true. Brand struggle. Authenticity has long been a buzzword in marketing, yet it eludes to many brands. Historically, authenticity is rooted in truth. So look at this. This is now talking about authenticity. It has nothing to do about newsletters. But you could see the template and the structure of the newsletter is very similar, so it's consistent, yet the topics, the wording, everything is completely different. The same thing with content highlights, right? How to make your brand stand out and win. Insights from Gary Vee, right? Has the structure, has the before we dive in piece, then it goes into a couple key highlights. It gives you a couple key takeaways. Again, this is the same that we did with the newsletter video, but now completely different video. Let's see this one. You see, look at this. This is content remix. If you remember in the other content remix, it decided to do a couple step-by-step. In this version, it's embrace consumer-centric strategies for authentic marketing, right? And it breaks it off a little bit differently. It talks about the myth, obsessing reach over impact, consumer-centric is the new authentic, the role of consumer insights. So the structure is completely different. Beautiful email newsletter that you can send out to your audience. You've got the here's what I learned. I watched Gary Vee's discussion on marketing, so you don't have to. And here's what I found. Again, completely different topic. You've got the step-by-step, which shows you beautifully outlining step-by-step, teaching you how to do exactly what was discussed inside of the video. And last but not least, this is something that we're adding, is newsletter images. So if you're like, hey, I don't have any images, I could throw a thumbnail from the video, or can I get AI to generate some AI images based on the concepts discussed in the video? Here you are, right? And that's exactly what this card does. It analyzes the video based on the topics and it generates AI images that you can use to feature in your newsletter. And guys, it works great if you want to put this in a blog post. It works great if you want to throw it into a LinkedIn post, right? And you can click on it like, look at this. I mean, this is pretty cool. Billboard, it's got a bunch of visuals in the background. You know, it's this one's talking about marketing, right? And what's great is that we actually reveal the prompt to you of how this image was generated in case you want to tweak it, right? Here's another image option you can use. Again, sometimes AI doesn't get words right, but if you like it and you want to crop the top because you like how this futuristic digital world looks like with all these magical creatures, you can use it. This one, it's an illustration of a countryside where you've got colorful print advertisements. Again, this is about marketing, but it's using illustrations and images to be able to generate content for it. And then last but not least, here's a fourth image. We give you 4 image options to choose from. And what's beautiful about it is, again, if you like, let's say, this image, but you want to make a tweak to it, just click copy, come back here, and you're going to go to the image card. You're going to click edit, and you'll just delete the prompt that we had here and copy and paste that prompt. And now make all the adjustments you want to the prompt, right? To try to get a different output. And so, you know, like create a billboard in Miami Beach, Vegas style, based on the video transcript topics discussed. And what's great is I could say vivid, natural. I can make it HD. In this case, I'm going to do landscape. I could generate 4 images at a time, hit generate. So everyone, it's that easy if you're trying to get some images. Not all images are going to come out exactly right the first shot. That's why prompting, you can come up with your own prompts. If you have your favorite ones that you'd like to use, you can drop that in here. And with that, you can use these images to be able to feature inside of a newsletter, a blog post, or a LinkedIn post. And what's great is, and this might go a little bit to what you said a little bit earlier, where you're like, hey, can I create a couple newsletters at the same time or whatever it is? All of this that you see here is a template that we are going to be rolling out to everyone. Now, what does that mean in Alfana while this image generates? When I click create, what I showed you earlier was an empty project, right? But what you can do if I come in here is when you select a template, there's a template here, and I don't know if I saved one yet. No, I haven't saved it, but it'll be called like newsletter generator, right? As an example. And when you select that template and upload your video to create a project, it will generate all of these newsletters in one shot. So just like how right now I had to add each individual card one by one, if you know that you need a newsletter, but you'd like to read through 5 or 6 different variations for your video first, you would select a template and we'll create all of them at once so that when it's ready and the project is ready, you can come in here and just go one by one and pick the newsletter that you'd like. And you might get lucky and get 3 options because they're automatically talking about different topics, or they might be very similar and you could choose the one that fits best for your audience or for how you're trying to get your content. Save this on Alfana ASAP, please and thank you. I love it. Yes, I am going to save this. And not only that, but you could see the images. I'm also going to include the images card in here. That way, when you generate a newsletter, you already have a couple images you can use. But check this out, right? These were the original 4 images that were there. I added another one to create a billboard, Vegas style. And I mean, take a look at this, right? We're at Miami Beach, full crowds, right? We got spring break coming up in a couple weeks, by the way. Always gets too crazy, but let's see what happens. Look, authentic marketing magic. Look, it got the words right. Look at that. So it put a person on stage with an audience. I mean, this is true Gary Vee style, right? Obviously, that doesn't look like Gary Vee, but in his style of getting up on stage, and it's talking about authentic marketing. Here's another one. Look, the words came out right. Passion and simplicity. He's got a book, right? You see him there. And then last but not least, here's another one. Unforgettable customer experiences. Look at this. So again, now I've got a series of images that we can use as options for posts or for content. You get the prompts. And everyone here can send out an email newsletter at least once a week, but potentially you could do this 2 to 3 times depending on your audience. All right, let's see any other questions in the chat. Also works great if you want to make something similar in Canva and have a creative block, like an album cover or cover to a product. That's 100%. If you're trying to come up with ideas, you could literally throw that into Alfana. You could, especially for an album cover, like, hey, I want you to generate a concept for an album cover. And guess what? Take your transcript, the lyrics from your song, copy and paste those lyrics, and you could put that inside of this text box and say, hey, here are my lyrics. Based on my lyrics, can you come up with some ideas for an album cover concept, right? And actually put that into the images card. And now that it has your lyrics, it'll now draw insights based on your lyrics and create a couple example images that you can use. And you'll be surprised. You might get 1 or 2 that could potentially be the album cover, but maybe you got to overlay text in Canva, or it allows you to, again, like you said, get inspiration for a cover for it. So thank you for that, Amor. That was a great point. Not specific to newsletters, but is there a good way to have Alfana generate an AI prompt from a video that we can use in another tool like Gamma app to build out lead magnets, checklists, templates, carousels, etc.? Wow, 100. All right. So, for example, with Gamma, you could put in a prompt, but you could also give it a bunch of insights. What you could do is literally grab let's look at one. I want to show you. I have an ebook lead magnet ideas template, okay? Because if you're going to do a lead magnet, drop a video, extract insights, and generate ideas for a lead magnet. Right? That's exactly what this is going to do. But here's what's cool. I've got one card that literally all it does is it gives you ideas, right? And so from this video, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ideas with a description. Why I started this project and you should do, and how this ebook guides readers through a passion project, right? Or it talks about your first 10 days in content creation, finding your voice. So this is one if you just want ideas. But what's cool is that we can actually draft a full outline. You can feed this into Gamma or any other prompt, and it actually breaks out chapter by chapter for what should go inside of this ebook. Now, why is this important? Because if you use this for a presentation, it'll essentially turn each chapter into its own slide. Or if you need it to be longer, you can have a slide for the chapter and a slide for each bullet point that comes out of it. And this is extracting all of the insights that are coming directly from the video. So again, you could create hundreds of ebooks with insights. And again, just credit your creators. They spent a lot of time creating this content. There's no harm in putting a link attribution inside of them. But look at this. And the other thing that we do, right, for some people who are like, I just want you to draft a whole ebook. We actually draft a version in here. So these cards are also available in Alfana, and this template's available. And it actually drafts the text and the context for it so that you can leverage this in order to generate an ebook or to create a presentation, put it into Gamma, etc. And just like we did with the newsletter, we also provide a couple AI images that you can leverage that comes from insights from the video as well. It won't give you this many. It's because I was creating a lot of images. It'll probably give you 4 at a time to start. Just a heads up on these images. So if we recap part of what we've done so far in this session, we learned how to create multiple variations in newsletters from videos. You even saw how we could turn it into a LinkedIn post And of course, a LinkedIn post, you could do a LinkedIn newsletter as well. And lastly, so many lead magnets that you can create, all from video content, from your content that you record and other content that you find valuable, that your audience would find valuable online. So thank you so much. This was a great session. All of you has just had such great insights, such great questions. I really appreciate it. This was our weekly Insider Live. Again, my name is Sebastian Mora. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Alfana, and we host this session every single week, teaching you tips and tricks on AI, how to dive deep into Alfana, how to generate more content from video, and just to help guide you in anything that you need. And so if you found this really useful, go ahead on YouTube, hit subscribe. And when we publish the replay, go ahead and hit like as well. And if you guys need anything at all, please reach out to me. I love you all. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.